a lot of people I've realized don't even self-reflect, like on their daily lives, their daily habits. They don't say, look, these are the problems that I have in my life, or I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. And then they don't look at the cause of why those things are happening and take responsibility, like, I'm the one who is causing those things. Taking a step away from social media and reading books to actually educate myself, and then also just not being so caught up in other things that my peers are caught up in. Like, I feel like I'm like gapping everybody that's like just focused on the wrong things.
People try to put us to down. Talking about my generation.
Welcome to the TLT Movement Podcast, a podcast for tomorrow's leaders today. I'm sat today with one of my good friends, a TLT alumni, Stephen Lawerence. He also so happens to be one of the most handsome young men in South Florida.
Oh, stop it.
No, dude, you're jacked. You're impressively jacked. I knew you. When I moved here, you weren't even this jacked.
I was tiny.
You were tiny.
Yeah.
And this past 2 years.
2 years is exactly when my journey, it was 2 years in January of this year.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got the 6-pack abs. You're like built up a little bit.
You're getting there too, Danny.
I'm hitting the gym every day, but I'm not even getting close. I want to fit. Okay.
But nobody could do it on the roller skates like you. So that's what I'm really jealous of, bro.
Yeah, the skates don't quite. You know, it's so funny because I've been trying to get jacked. Like, it's been a goal of mine for a long time, and I have a professional hockey playing cousin. Skates all day, every day. Does not have a 6-pack.
No,
He's not jacked. But his quads are just like giant.
But
his
you don't
calves
think
are
that's
huge.
just a genetic thing, do you?
I don't know. I don't think it is. I think for his sport, he needs a little bit more of that, like, because he's trying to check guys.
Right.
He's trying, like, he needs that leg.
Yeah.
He's the same height as me, and he weighs
No
30
way. Is he
pounds
really?
more. Yeah.
Whenever I've envisioned your cousin, because I don't watch hockey at all,
Yeah.
but I've known that you had a pro cousin, I've always thought he was like 6 feet or something. Like,
No.
whenever I've thought of him in my head, like,
He's the
whatever
shortest guy on the
imagination.
team and one of the shortest in the whole league, but he's fast. He shoots
Was
goals.
he like player of the week earlier this year?
Oh, yeah.
Or like player of the league or
He
something?
was top in the league, yeah. Yeah, for goals and points and all that stuff.
That's what's up.
And he's still up there. But one of the guys on his team, actually, so he plays for the Detroit Red Wings. And this interview is about you, not about my... Okay, hold on.
No, we can get into it.
But one of the players on his team, Harkin, is like one of the top in the league, too. So they're competing on the same team.
Okay.
And so that's kind of cool.
Is Larkin short too?
No. No, he's like literally one of the shortest guys, but he weighs 30 pounds more than me.
Wow.
Blows me away because I try to gain weight.
Big
It's
quads.
tough. Yeah. Anyway, all right. So what would you say are the key factors to get the physique that you have now and the health?
So I would say, like, you mentioned eating, right? I would say eating is even more important than the gym. Like, if you're doing the gym with keeping the same diet habits that you had before, you might as well not go to the gym, like, in my opinion. Because when like you said, I was tiny before I was skinny. I always grew up as like one of the smallest in my class, like weight-wise and height-wise for the majority of my school years until like 10th grade. I had a little bit of a growth spurt, grew a couple inches. And so I think that eating is the most important because when I started back in January of 2022, I remember I was eating 3 meals a day. And then
Right.
and my dad is very into bodybuilding as well. He used to compete. And so I told my dad, I was like, I think I'm going to go up to 4 meals a day. Or I think I'm going to start eating 4 meals a day. And then he goes, wait, like you're going down? And then I was like, wait, what do you mean? Then he was like, if you're really trying to like be bodybuilding, like you should be eating like 5-6 meals a day. And I was like, wow. And so I would have to force myself to eat. And it's like the same thing with discipline. It's like, even when you don't want to go to the gym, you go to the gym anyway. When you don't want to eat, you got to eat anyway. Like, you got to fit it in.
Yeah, I'm good at the first part. I'm good at hitting the gym even when I don't want to.
Yeah.
But the eating is so... I eat literally maybe 1 or 2 a day.
And that's the thing
why
is
I'm not
that,
seeing results.
like, health-wise, I think that that's the best way to do it. Because, like, I think that not eating when you first get up and waiting until, like, intermittent fasting type thing, because our body is not always meant to be processing food.
Right.
I would rather do that because I know my metabolism is so fast and I know that, like, naturally I'm smaller, like smaller boned and just smaller with weight-wise, that I have to overeat. So I have to force myself to eat. But the thing is, like, if you're really going hard in the gym, like, your body's gonna get used to that. So
I remember when we were in Israel, you would get like 2-3 plates a meal.
yes,
And by the second plate, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so full. And we're like, why are you doing this? And you're guys like, got a bulk.
for real.
Yeah.
And the thing is, in Israel too, I wasn't really working out, so I definitely had to make sure I was eating because I wasn't getting it in. So
Right.
I was like, and they had a lot of like not protein packed stuff over there, so I
Right.
definitely had to overeat in Israel with the Mediterranean diet and
Oh, yeah.
everything.
For
But,
sure.
Yeah.
So what's your goal with all of this? Do you want to be a bodybuilder like your pops?
No, I just think that it's very important for lifestyle and also to just be like alpha. Like, bro,
Fair
if
enough.
you walk into a room, bro, and you feel like Diesel, like you have quite a bit of confidence. And it's not like just confidence like, oh, I'm better than you, but it's like in the regards of like I'm going to have to protect my family one day.
Sure.
I have little sisters, so like I want them to feel like they have a big brother that they can like feel safe around, and like all of those things that just come into like being a man and having to protect and be a provider and things like that. I feel like is super important, but I don't want to get huge.
Sure.
Like I don't want to get overly big. I think that
You want to be like tactical.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that's the thing is that eventually when I get like 26, 27 and my metabolism slows down a little bit, that's when like I would rather start eating less and like focusing more on like martial arts and things because I won't have to spend so much time on trying to gain weight and gain muscle. Because like at that point I'll have been working out for years and years and years. It will be pretty like molded into like my body form, and it's not going to be as hard for me to gain weight, gain muscle at that age.
Sure.
I feel like, but we'll see.
Cool. Yeah. And I think another psychological aspect of it is a woman, and you aspire to have a wife and kids and all this.
My biggest goal.
Same. I think a psychological aspect of it also is like, hey, if he can do this and be disciplined in this, that will carry over into his career, his
Yes.
faith, his all this stuff. Have you seen that transformation as you this past 2 years have transformed your physique? Do you see it carrying over into every aspect?
Absolutely. It's like Miss Andrea says, like how you do one thing is how you do everything. Like it's absolutely true. So like I've heard successful guys speak about it. They say like, if you see a man that's in shape and fit, you can automatically tell a few things about that man's character just based off of knowing that he has discipline, he has self-control, and these other respectable aspects about him. And so discipline definitely carries over when it comes to saying no to diet, when it comes to like there's pizza in front of you. Like at work, we get lunch every Friday, and sometimes I don't eat what they have because like I'm like, no, I can't give in.
Right.
And it's not necessarily that I can't. It's not like if I eat pizza that one day that my physique is just going to go down the drain. But it's like mentally denying those things and taking my health first, but also saying no to yourself when you want something makes you stronger every single time.
Absolutely.
So like that's also with denying the flesh too, which I'm sure that you know about as well. Like when it comes to the Christian aspect of denying your flesh with temptations and sin. And so it's like being disciplined in the area of going to the gym when you don't feel like it, not eating that cookie or that burger when you do feel like it. Like all of those things carry over because you now see that you can do it in areas that are very hard for you to do it in. So you know that you can accomplish that in another area as well. I can sustain from watching pornography, or I can sustain from trying to go after that girl. You know what I mean?
Yes.
All those different things.
Do you, like, for me personally, food is a very, very easy thing for me to abstain from. I'm not really attracted to it. I've been kind of craving ice cream for like 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And I've just been like, no. I can just tell myself no. But when it comes to maybe scrolling on YouTube, that I don't quite have that control over. Do you see anything in your life that you've disciplined yourself in all these spots, but then there's one area that's not quite there?
I would say entertainment as well. But I've also limited that. So, like, I completely logged off of Instagram, like, because I just found myself, it's like the temptation is present, like, to use your search or, like, just scroll and see something crazy, like, whether it be a girl half naked on Instagram or whatever it is. Like, I've limited my time on that as well. And I've also heard different scientists and people that are into health saying that, you know, an hour past when you wake and an hour before you go to sleep, you shouldn't be on your phone.
Right.
Because it messes with like your brain chemistry. And so in the mornings, I don't go on my phone at all. When I wake up, like I pretty much don't go on social media all day until nighttime. When I finally lay down and I'm ready to go to bed, I'll scroll a little bit. But even still, it takes away hours from my sleep because like, and like I could sit there scrolling for like 2-3 hours in
Easy.
bed at night because it's like decompressing and it's mindlessness.
Right.
But I think that it also messes up your attention span.
100% it does.
Yeah.
It makes me nervous because I'm starting this new job and I got to be like locked in. I've been trying to prove to myself this past week and a half that I have the capability because I work hard, but you know, as I render or as I'm doing something on the computer where it can kind of be doing its own thing, I'll go and scroll and I'll just get caught in like a half-hour hole. And I'm like, okay, when I have this job, I can't be doing this. So man, it's tough and it's such a time suck. And I know that if I cut that out, I could read so many books. I could I could be totally using that time for something else. And so I think that's huge. So what's the strategy to overcome that?
Well, the thing is this, I've actually started reading books.
Oh yeah?
And I felt like it's so funny because in a generation like ours, like we see how like blinded everybody is. Like a lot of people. And the thing is that we've had the privilege of growing up in a great community where we encourage each other and we have like-minded goals to go towards the same thing. And we don't care about, you know, going to a brother and saying, yo, listen, you need to like straighten this out. Like we could take that accountability. A lot of people I've realized don't even self-reflect like on their daily lives, their daily habits. They don't say, look, these are the problems that I have in my life. Or I don't like this, I don't like this, I don't like this. And then they don't look at the cause of why those things are happening and take responsibility like I'm the one who is causing those things. Or maybe certain things that I'm doing that I could stop doing would stop having those problems reoccur. And so I've realized that a lot of people don't even self-reflect. So I'm constantly like self-reflecting and I feel like taking a step away from social media and reading books to actually educate myself. And then also just not being so caught up in other things that my peers are caught up in. Like, I feel like I'm, like, gapping everybody that's, like, just focused on the wrong things. And it's, like, separating me from the majority. And so I think that, like you were saying, the resolution for that is just channeling it towards something that you know is beneficial.
Right.
Like, it's not something that necessarily you desire to do. But once you start channeling it, you start seeing the benefits, and then you'll enjoy the benefits.
It's kind of like replacing that instant gratification.
Yes.
Doing something like reading a book that isn't necessarily more fun than scrolling.
Right.
But the long-term gratification is so much more honoring to yourself and rewarding that end goal, being the minority, not in the sense that everybody talks about it nowadays, but the intellectual minority as far as somebody that, because you're so right. I was just talking about this on the podcast with Hyris about how people don't self-reflect. Yeah, and it's crazy in how specifically he brought up a point. He's like, if you're a man and you are incapable of waking up before the sun comes up, you're doing something wrong. And I'm like, that's my time when I self-reflect. It's that early 5 a.m. To about 6:30 where I'm doing the journals, I'm reading the Bible. And if I didn't have that, my whole day is shot. And these guys that wake up half an hour before school or their job or something, it's like, how do you...
I'm glad that you brought that up. That's actually my struggle.
Really?
So, like, I couldn't think of it, but it's something that I've been self-reflecting on. Like, waking up early is one of my biggest struggles.
Really?
And the problem for it is because I scroll at night. So it's like full circle. And I wish that I could. And the thing is, I know, especially in the future when I have a family, I'm going to be having to wake up at like 4 a.m., 3:30 a.m. to really get my time in with God. Probably hit the gym because I won't be able to do it at late nights because I need to be with my family.
100%.
You know what I mean? So that is definitely something that I'm going to be working on. And also the scrolling, right? I wanted to say this. Is that like when it comes to reading a book as opposed to scrolling or doing something beneficial as opposed to scrolling, I started to self-reflect and realize this. Every single time that I've scrolled on TikTok or Instagram Reels or YouTube Shorts at night or whenever, right, just for an hour, half an hour, 2 hours, the next day when I wake up, do I really remember anything that I learned? Nothing. It's just it's mindlessness. It's just for you to be entertained. You literally shut your mind off and you just sit there being entertained like this.
And for me, I keep going back to it because I get one nugget out of that 2 hour thing where I'll lie to myself and it'll come out of my mouth. I'll go like, that was from a short. I'll be like, I read something the other day. I didn't read nothing. I saw it in a podcast.
Well, now I know whenever you say that to me, you're just lying.
No, I actually justify it in my brain. It's so bad because I'm like, well, I read the caption on the short. I read the title that popped, the little text that popped up. But no, it's so bad. And it's especially bad if you don't do your own research after because you're just taking the podcast. Anybody can have a podcast and just say anything that they want.
Exactly.
And so, I mean, just like this show. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, man. Yeah. And then for me also when I scroll at night, because I really try not to. I do like once a week. I'll find myself in the bed with my phone. It's easy because I have a bunk bed, so I just leave it on the floor.
Okay.
I can climb up into it.
Yeah.
Anyway, when I do that, I try to close my eyes and I have a light mask on, and for me, it's like a strobe light in my eyes.
Really?
Yes. I don't know what that is. I don't know if anybody else has this issue, but it's like
I've never had that.
It's like a strobe light. I don't know why, but it's crazy and it hurts actually. It's like tough to light like that.
Wow. Have you ever tried like not going on the phone for like an hour before you go to sleep, and that still happens?
No, it's great.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's only when I scroll until I pass out. It's like flashing in my eyes. I don't know what that is.
Wow.
Wackadoodle. All right. Anyway, all right. So you said discipline. It through the discipline, through doing what you say you're going to do, or not doing what you say you're not going to do. Your yes being your yes, your no being your no. That discipline hustle increases. Also, your confidence is boosted because you're a man of integrity.
Yes.
That says something and then does that thing.
Yes.
What else do you think this physique building, bodybuilding, in the gym, eating all this stuff has another positive side effect?
I think that it also gives me the ability to influence others. Because whenever I talk to my friends, and that's what I love to do, bro, is I like to help people improve themselves. Like, I want people to be better. And I think that a lot of people's friends are just, like, encouraging each other into things that are detrimenting them instead of encouraging them. But the thing is, like, all of my friends know, like, if you're talking to me, I'm going to probably have a real conversation with you. I'll tell you some things you may not want to hear, but it's definitely something that you'll respect hearing. Because anything that I ask my friends to do, they know that I'm doing myself. So it like you said, integrity, right? Like, so it comes from a source of somebody that you would look onto them and say, yeah, I actually would take advice from that person because I see the results of it in their life. And so I think that that's given me a more of an impactful voice in certain people's lives that I've been able to help. And especially because I'm so hard on myself, they know that anything that I'm asking them to do, I'm not just kicking it back and saying, you do that, and then not living up to it myself.
Right. That's so good. And you're, by doing that, you're actually influencing the whole community to inspire to do that too. And then we're all just able to be held up. And I think that that's great.
Yes.
Who inspires you?
Jesus Christ.
My guy. Dude, that guy rules.
Bro, that's like such a cop-out answer.
No, it's
true.
It's true.
Exactly.
I know that you weren't always a Christian and you were even a little mad at God.
Yeah.
Let's talk about kind of how that happened, where now Jesus is your number one influencer.
Yeah. So I did grow up in a Christian home, and it's funny, I was talking to a friend about this last night. When I growing up in a Christian home, you take God for granted. Like, you grew up with all these Bible stories, and you grew up going to church, and you hear all this, and like, you're just supposed to accept it as part of your lifestyle, like, and adopt the belief. But you take God for granted for sure. Like, you see people that were completely living their lives outside of God, and when they come to their faith, like, it's everything to them. But when somebody grows up in a Christian home, like, they don't really have that same experience until they come into it on their own.
Right.
And so
It's not an inheritance.
right.
Right.
God has no grandchildren.
Mm.
You can use that one.
I actually have not ever heard that.
Yeah, my
That's
sixth
good.
grade Bible teacher told me that, and that like blew my mind. But
Here, bring them up. Hike a little
sorry
closer.
about that. So, growing up in the Christian home, I always just thought to myself, I'm never gonna be able to have any fun. Like everything that my parents are telling me, everything that I'm hearing in the church is like, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this, and all that stuff sounds fun. All that stuff sounds like something that I would want to do. So why is it that I just have to comply with that, and I don't want to have anything to do with that? And then also, it's before I really adopted responsibility into my life, where I had more of the victim mindset. So it's like anything that would go wrong, like when I do finally decide to turn to God and pray about it, it's like, God, why would God let this happen to me? Like, where is God in this situation? And so I think that the biggest change in my life, it wasn't like anything crazy. Like I don't know if I've talked about it on the podcast that we did before, but I was sitting on the dock with everybody when we did prayer groups at the end of church. And we usually go around and we say our prayer requests. And so for weeks, I had been asking God, can you give me strength for this temptation that I'm having? For God to give me clarity on like what I'm supposed to do with this and that. And then one week I just realized like I'm BSing myself and I'm BSing everybody else. Like I know exactly what to do and I'm just not willing to do it yet. That's the only problem. And I literally said that on the dock. I said, my prayer request this week, I don't have one because I know exactly what I need to do. And I keep coming here trying to ask for strength and ask for this and that. I'm asking for strength, but if strength is there, even if strength was there, I'm still going to be doing what I wanted to do anyway. Like that's when I realized like it's not the strength that's the problem, it's me. And so I just had that realization, and then after that I was like, I know exactly what I need to do, and I didn't want to talk about it anymore. I wanted my actions to just show it. And so I decided like I wasn't going to try to talk about it or tell anybody what I was doing, but my actions would be evident that they would notice. And so, and I didn't do it for people to notice. Right. I did it because I wanted my life to be better, and I did it because I had a certain person I wanted to be, and I wanted to live up to a certain standard. And I didn't know it at the time, but I wanted to live up to God's standard because this was really the start of my walk. And so after that, it's like I got this supernatural power from the Holy Spirit to just like go cold turkey on things. When it came to being impure with my girlfriend, when it came to girlfriend at the time, when it came to pornography temptations, when it came to vaping, when it came to laziness, when it came to bad diet, when it came to disrespecting my parents, all these different things, I was able to just be like, nope, like just like that. As soon as I was willing to obey, as soon as I took responsibility, it was willing to obey, I took those one step towards God, and he was right there. He was waiting, but he said, I'm not going to force you, because real love doesn't force anything.
Right.
And so as soon as I was willing to obey, and that's what a lot of people get mixed up with in Christianity nowadays, and especially with all these poor role models that we have in society, saying that you got a woman who's shooting pornography and wearing a cross necklace and saying that she feels like God gave her this opportunity, like completely just twisted backwards. And you have these people or these rap artists or these musicians saying that, and it's not for us to judge ultimately.
Sure.
But God says you know them by their fruit.
Right.
So if you have these rappers and athletes living the fast life, but then they still say, I just want to thank God, and they're claiming like God is God first and everything, but then their life is showing the complete opposite. You got all these kids looking up at them saying, wait, I could still be a Christian and like feel like I have my salvation and I don't have to go to hell and still be doing everything that I need. No.
Right.
No. God says, if you love me, you obey my commandments. Wow. And so that's the way to show that you love God. And I made this analogy before where it's like, if you are in a relationship, right, and your girlfriend cheats on you, and then she comes back, she says sorry, and then you're like, all right, we'll figure it out from here. Like, I'm going to forgive you, but like, it's going to be hard. We'll take steps and like progress. And then she goes out and cheats on you again. Then she's like, I'm so sorry. I love you. I really do. And then you're like, but this already happened before. And then she goes and does it again and again and again.
That's what we're doing to God.
Are you thinking that that girl really loves you, or is she just giving you lip service? Does she say that she loves you and then show the opposite? Love is a choice. Love is actions. Love is an emotion as well, but it's shown through actions. And so that's the same thing that we're doing to God. We're just using his grace up like it's an unlimited debit card. We could just keep swiping, and saying that, like, I'm going to keep my sin, but I have your grace. No.
Right.
God calls us to change.
He'll let you sin and have the results that come about from that.
Right.
Yeah.
And those come direct, like those consequences. And that's what I realized too, is that the reason that God tells us to not do all those things is because that's the way to live your life the most harmonious possible, the most abundant possible.
It's the way to live in integrity with the laws of the world, even if you don't believe in God.
And
God's commandments,
right.
it is the law of the universe.
Right. So if you have a non-believer and you give them all these different principles of God or commandments from God, and they apply them to their life, and they don't know that they're doing it because of God, their life is going to be so much better because of it.
100%.
It's not just because God doesn't want us to have fun. He has us live our life in a certain way so that we have the most blessings possible, and it glorifies him, right? Like sex. Sex is a beautiful thing, but it's perverted when it's outside of marriage. You know what I mean? So inside of marriage, it's the most beautiful thing that he gave a man and a woman to enjoy together. It's supposed to be a beautiful thing. Sex is not a bad thing. It's a bad thing when you have it outside of marriage, and then you have rape, incest, abortions,
STDs,
adoptions, STDs, violence, a man go killing another man because he cheated on him with his wife.
Drama.
With his wife. So all those different things that come out of sex outside of marriage, it's like God says, sex is for a man and a wife, a husband and a wife, and that's it. So it's like when you start to realize those things and you obey, you see how much more peaceful your life becomes because you don't have this burden on your back. You know you're doing the right things, and you see all this drama start leaving your life because you're no longer involved in things that are shady, no longer involved in things that are like sneaky behind people's backs or doing things in the dark, anything like that.
Man, that's so good. And I think sex is such a big one. And that's one that a lot of young people and a lot of modern Western society goes, well, why wouldn't God want me to do that? It feels so good. It's awesome. I know there's tons of articles about how they found themselves having, through having casual sex, and they feel empowered and all this. But I think Gen Z, it's propaganda. And Gen Z specifically, I think, is really starting to wake up, even just this year, to be like, wait a second, why do I feel so bad about this? Why am I so depressed and anxious and I don't feel right? And when whoever hookup partner's coming over, I get this kind of pit in my stomach where I'm like, like, why do I feel this way?
Yeah.
And they're starting to understand, oh, that's my conscience. Mm-hmm. And you can sear that and totally be callous to what your gut is telling you to do. But everybody's gut says, this is wrong. This is not right. This doesn't feel right. And especially if you don't love them and you just met them. I mean, gosh dang, I don't even know how that's enjoyable, truly. I think you're spot on there. Is that, you would say, you want one of your number one struggles?
I would say it's my number one defeat. Or like victory.
Ooh. Oh, I like that.
My number one victory.
Yeah.
Like bro, once
I love that.
Bro, like recently, like I'd say a couple months ago, there was a situation that happened because it was my number one struggle. I feel like it is for every man in there, and I'm not trying to make myself feel better.
Right.
But for every young man full of testosterone and all these raging hormones, like, and especially living in an environment like South Florida where we live, and you got girls walking around half naked all the time just on the sidewalk, it's very hard. And then also with everything that you see through television and social media and everything like that. So there was something that happened, and I had made that decision 2 years ago to like stay strong on that path, but I would fall. So it would be up and down, and it would be fewer and further in between, like the more time that went on. But then there was a point in my life where I had like this bad thing happen, and I kind of like stopped reading my Bible. Like I didn't like disclaim my faith or anything, but I wasn't pouring into it. So I wasn't getting anything out of it where I was feeling the strength. And then also just turned into the wrong things because I was at a bad point in my life. And so it became more prevalent then. And then something happened where it really made me like wake up, and like God was speaking to me. And after that, it's like practicing purity, right? And then doing it over and over and over again, it becomes easier as it goes on. Like, I would say today, for the most part, like when I see girls half naked or like walking around, whatever, I don't even find that attractive. Like, I don't even look at it twice. Like, I'm just like, okay. And I'm like, I don't even want to see that. And it just, like, I just feel, I feel like a different person. Like, my mind has been reset by being pure. And there's this guy on TikTok talks about like seed retention and how it's like brought him closer to God, and like you feel way more in touch with God. And so it's something that he's experienced, and I don't know his full testimony, but it's similar to what I'm saying, where it's like you sexualize everything in your mind, but then when you stop, like life becomes so much more pure in your mind. Like, I feel like a new person. I don't feel like I have this oppression cloud of sexual temptation over me all the time. I feel free from it. Life just seems so much better.
I couldn't agree more. You know, as a young man, this was my number one struggle that I'm totally adopting. It's not my number one struggle. It's my number one victory.
Yeah.
I love that. And I would get so upset that I have all these impulsive thoughts that kind of come into my mind that are intruding, that are kind of like uninvited thoughts, just about sexual stuff.
Yeah.
Whether it be in the form of humor or just stuff that I've done or stuff that I saw. And I noticed as soon as I started to practice the retention, for lack of a better word, to hone in the chi, is how I call it. All those thoughts, all those intrusive thoughts went away.
Yeah.
And it really is pure. Like, I can go into a conversation with a beautiful young lady with zero intention in my heart for anything other than just to get to know her. Yeah. And she feels it too. Yeah. Everybody feels it. Absolutely. Even if they can't recognize what exactly is different about
subconsciously, you. They know something's different.
Totally.
Yeah.
And you're able to look them in the eyes and not be like darting around because you're nervous or you're thinking something. Right. So yeah, I think that's huge.
And it has me looking forward to marriage so much more.
Big time.
Like I don't think like meaningless sex, like the idea of just like sex in general is like completely unattractive to me. It's like sex inside of marriage is like gonna be something that's like divine by God. Like, it's gonna be amazing, bro.
It's gonna bear the greatest fruit in the world.
Right. My children.
Right.
My empire.
Right.
And so, dude, bro.
I love it.
Bro, we're going to be out here with like 12 kids, bro.
Heck yeah.
Out in like the middle of nowhere creating our own civilization, bro. I'm telling you, one of these days, we're going to talk.
Oh, yeah.
But
we have talked about that as a group, just starting, a little community, a little town.
We can't let them
somewhere.
know too much, though.
No, of course not.
Government's listening.
Oh, man. It's so funny because every friend group I talk to, all of them, all have this plan.
Really?
They're all like, yeah, we just want to escape and go off the grid.
Yeah?
Yeah, it's becoming a very popular thing.
Wow.
And nobody's doing it, so we have to do it.
I think we do. We got to set the pace.
Yeah.
For sure.
For sure. I'm so psyched. So psyched.
We got to learn how to farm and everything, too. We got to get
right.
Yeah. Oh, didn't think about that part.
Anyway, my sister is going to start a farm here soon, and she's been doing all this research. Yeah. And it's so interesting how the different crops and even different cattle and livestock vary from region to region, and how you have to look out for the certain deer in that area that might carry some disease, that their pee might flow down the hill into a puddle that your sheep might drink, and then they all get sick. And it's just like, there's so many complex little things that I feel like we really, because as a society right now, less than 1% of us in the U.S. actually farm or have control over anything that we eat. And we just don't quite understand how complex it can really be, and how complex it's been, and how it's not a simple man's job. I mean, it is like, it's hard work, and things go wrong all the time. I mean, you read in the Bible how everything would be great, and then locusts would come through in 2 days. Yeah. Your entire crop is gone, and you're like, oh my gosh.
Or famine.
Right.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
We definitely have to prepare for that. Maybe we gotta send one of our boys out
Into the
early,
woods.
early, just so that they like
Honestly,
grow into it and just adapt, and then we'll be like, all right.
I've been actually buying a lot of like survival books and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because
Sweet.
if the technology goes away, you're gonna need books to teach you all this stuff. So
Yeah, and when Daniel comes back from special forces,
yeah,
have that side of it
so
too.
yeah, your brother, he just enlisted this Monday, right?
Yeah.
And so he's gonna go up to his base. He signed what, 6 years? He said.
I think it's a 3x5.
Okay.
I'm not sure. Maybe he did the 6. I didn't really talk to him about the exact contract he signed, but I thought at first he was doing the 3 years, which the whole training, if everything goes right and he does get into being a Green Beret through selection, then the whole training takes about 3 years, like until you're done.
Wow.
And you're officially like a Green Beret. And so at that time, he could choose to extend it, or he would just be on like National Guard Reserve for like 5 years. So
How do you feel about him risking his life to go and serve our country?
So I'm a little torn about it because like one side of me, I'm very into business, and my brother is I'd say he's into business too, but he's definitely like a dedicated person. Like I want to start a business with him, and I know that if him and I, like especially with the way that both of our mindsets are, set our mind to anything, like we could accomplish it. And so it'd be really nice to like have this time to start that, but I'll start it, and then like he could come join when he's finished. But
Sure.
the other side is just like I made my peace with it because I realized like at first I was like, dang, I don't want him to go. I'm gonna miss him. It's been nice having him back since he came back from college, but it's something that I realized if he doesn't do, he would feel like he would feel like he did himself a disservice if he didn't do it. And like that's why I was like, all right, like I know that this is something that he needs to do.
You know what's crazy is my papa, he died at 80, and his number one regret at that age was not serving his country.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
He was like, I wish I did that.
Wow.
Even though when all these wars were popping up and every opportunity he had,
Yeah.
he was always in school or he had a wife and kids. And so the government like allowed him when they would draft and when they would send it out, like that there were a couple of things where like he couldn't go because he had the responsibility, but he always respected it so much. And every single Veterans Day that comes around, all these things, I'm on the websites like basically signing up. And then I pull out it, and this is every year. I'm like, I'm like so inspired. I'm like, yes, let's do it. This is my path. And then I go, wait a second, what? I'm gonna have to shave my head. I'm gonna no. But I gotta say, I mean, if there was a draft, there obviously won't be a mandatory draft. But if they were like, hey, we need guys,
I would be there.
I'd be there.
I'd be there too.
100%.
And the thing is, like, I've grown to love this country more and more. Like, we're taught now to hate it,
Right.
which is systemic poisoning that they're doing on purpose. But Daniel, my brother, he's definitely the one to be going into the military.
He's gonna kill it
because
he's gonna do so good.
His integrity and his love for this country, like he's not just doing it to go get a paycheck. He's not just, you know what I mean? Like, and just how soft our nation has become and the type of people going into the military anyway. You need more people like him.
Absolutely. So. Yeah, this country kind of has taken a noticeable turn. And I mean, I saw this tweet, and it blew me away. I could not recite it, but it was just how everything is backwards, not just the gender stuff and not just this social stuff, but how just everything, it's like, it feels so corrupt. And the hope, at least amongst us youth, is at an all-time low as far as what like the success of this country. And it's really at a tipping point right now where we can slip into not being first place. We've always known ourselves to be first place. We've always known ourselves to be no homeland wars, all this stuff. And so what do you think, if you could have the ideal America by the time that you have kids and you're 40 and 50, what does the ideal America look like for the future?
It looks like the education system not be doing what it's doing. Like teaching kids about sexual gender stuff and sexual identity in first grade, second grade, and the books that they're finding in the library about, you know, teaching kids how to give a like different things like that. Like it's ridiculous. And you see even like they're waking up a beast of like the people who usually stay pretty quiet, but now they're like, you're messing with my kids.
Right.
And you see all like these meetings at the school boards and everything of these parents just going off. And it's like, I think that the most ideal America would be to have a safe border and to have the founding fathers wanted it to be a democracy. So it's like the more and more laws that they're making is putting more and more restrictions on us. And so things like taking away our Second Amendment right and like the talks of that and just like the abortions and everything like that, I feel like they're just wanting to create chaos so that they can impose more control on us. And that's the opposite of what I want. I want it to be more free.
Liberty,
local communities coming together and having same values and just different things like that. I think the strong community is going to be the biggest part. I just want to live in a community where we don't have to deal with any of that garbage. Like I would rather raise my kids in the middle of nowhere where they have no human interaction. I know that sounds bad. Like it sounds like, oh, you're a bad dad. You would never want your kids to like.
They won't be normal. I don't want, if this is normal, I don't want this.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like I would rather have them not poisoned and do my duty to God to be a good father than have them, you know, upset at me that they can't have a phone at 8 years old.
Right.
Be, you know what I mean?
Yeah, all my friends have an iPad. I don't care.
That's what I'm saying.
No, I think you're spot on. I totally agree. I think community is the number one thing that we need to get back to. I think a way to do that, and the reason why this sexual orientation, the gender, all this stuff, and we've talked about on the show so much with the pornography, with I've had on a couple detransitioner type ladies and all this. It's so important because as we were speaking about earlier, this sexual exposure at a young age, it's all like a mental, spiritual battle that everybody has to deal with, and it taints the mind. Mm-hmm. And once the mind is gone and you can't trust yourself and your own thoughts, that's when you open up the door just for anything and everything. It's like how we say at TLT, if you don't stand for something, you'll stand
for nothing.
For nothing.
And that's a problem with like political correctness. Like you hear these people, they contradict themselves at the end of the day, but like they just have no backbone to correct anybody. It's like they're just willing to like let anything fly. Oh, your truth, you live your truth. It's like, dude, no. There are certain things that are black and white. Like, let's not play with those things. Man and woman, like the fact that we're even having a discussion in this country about what it is, and you got people in Congress and in the Senate being interviewed and questioned, what is a woman? Oh, I'm not a biologist, I can't say. Are you freaking kidding me?
Right.
And then I heard Matt Walsh, he I don't know if you've definitely seen this, when he asked the woman, do you know what a woman is? She was like, I can't say because I'm not a woman. She identified as something else, but she was a woman. And then he goes, do you know what a cat is? And then she goes, yeah. And then he was like, but you're not a cat.
Right. Or you're not a veterinarian, right?
Right. Like, why would you be able to know what a cat? Oh, I've made a mistake. I'm walking away now. That's what happened, bro. It's like ridiculous, bro, because these people, they just contradict themselves. And when you can't even have a common ground for anything, that's where the divide is.
Right.
It's just complete division in this country because now we can't even find common ground on the most basic laws of biology.
No, yeah, you're spot on. I think the community to bring people together. I think one thing that could really help also is if I know cars are amazing and they're great, but every community basically in the US, you can't walk anywhere. Yeah. It's all car based. And I think this really keeps kids inside. Yeah. Because there's this principle in our minds that if there's a bunch of people out on the street walking around, it's safer for a kid to go out. Mm-hmm. That's why these kids that grow up even in New York, by the time they're 10, they can walk to school and they can do all their stuff because there's enough people around that if anything sketchy starts to take place, that's why you don't want to go into a dark alleyway at night where nobody is and like all this. Yeah. So if we can kind of create communities around being able to have the kids take the responsibility at a young age to walk to school and to maybe go to the store and buy something and be able to bike around and walk around and not have the danger of all the cars speeding around and nobody being out on the roads. And so there's like creeps and all this suspicion. Yeah. I think that could really benefit society as a whole if we kind of...
What would you replace the cars with?
just more walking paths.
More walking paths.
That's why. So there's
So like having more of a local community where you got like a grocery store on the corner and like things like that.
And I know that the New World Order is kind of pushing toward a 15-minute city, and we don't really want that because it's going to restrict the way that they want to do it. But I think there's a positive to it too. I'll take that stance, where if everything's close by and you can have a pretty tight-knit group. And this is how humans have always been.
Right.
And it's just now that all the families get splintered because they all go off to different colleges and they get a job in this state and this state. They're all over the country. And then you move somewhere you don't even know your next door neighbor. I mean, every house I've ever lived in, I move every 2 years. We don't know who lives next door. You guys are blessed because you know everybody on the street. Yeah. That's great. That's your normal. It's not for a lot of...
Yeah, kids don't play outside anymore, man.
They don't.
It's ridiculous. Like, we kind of like on the... We are kind of on the... Like, in the middle. Because, like, we still had a little bit of old school.
Yes.
But then... we transitioned into like the new technology age and everything, but still when I was growing up, and a lot of my friends got phones before me just because my parents had a rule that, you know, you had to wait till a certain age. So I didn't get a phone until I was a freshman in high school. So like growing up, we would go on Saturdays with Dr. Jeff and the boys and everything, go out in the street and play football. Or we would go play Foursquare, or, you know, we just had to come up with different things. Like
we would grab a stick, and that'd be the whole day.
Yeah.
Just play with the stick.
Yeah, and just beat each other up and, you know, whack each other and everything. You know, that's probably where that's probably where we got adopted a lot of our violent tendencies when we get together. But, yeah, bro, kids don't play outside anymore. It's just crazy. You don't see anybody on the streets anymore. And that's the thing is, like, back in the day, you used to see that everywhere. And it's kind of disheartening because you just got a kid stuck inside all day and they don't even get to go out, breathe in the fresh air, get some healing properties from the sun.
Yeah.
You know, go skin their knees up and, you know what I'm saying, get a couple scars. It's just raising these soft kids, man.
And they're going to grow up to be soft people.
Yeah.
And easily controlled people.
And another thing that I would say about where I would want the country to be is, like, obviously, we've got our two sides, like conservative and liberal. And the thing is, I've seen a lot of it's funny how, like, and not to put a certain party on blast, but, like, you see a lot of liberal people saying that conservatives are racist and they're hateful and they don't care about you and this and that. But the thing is, when they try to engage in a civil discussion, they're the ones, like, immediately saying, like, if you don't agree with them, like, no, and they're screaming at people. Like, this guy's preaching from the corner and you've got, like, LGBTQ members coming up and screaming at them,
like, love everybody except for if you don't agree with me.
Right, exactly. It's like crazy. So it's like, who's really the hateful one? Like, you're not even like, you get so triggered that you can't even have a conversation with somebody who disagrees with you. And I really started noticing this around, like, the end of my middle school years, like early high school years. And it's like, it's just ridiculous. Like, you can't have a conversation with somebody. Like, as soon as you disagree, like, they're like, nope, I don't want to talk to you, walk away. Like, they don't even have answers for a lot of things that they bring up.
That they believe, like, quote unquote.
Right. And so we've got to take a deeper look into, as a country, the programming that is happening. Because for a lot of people to just be believing these things and having no real reason, or, like, you have certain people like Candace Owens, who was always more liberal, and then she heard the mainstream media attacking Trump, and she was always against Trump when he started running, but she actually listened to a speech live of his and then heard what the media had to say about it after, and she was like, that's not what he said.
Wait a second, yeah.
Right. And so it's like, for those people who actually enlighten themselves and take a look deeper against, like, what's going on, it's like they wake up and they realize. And so,
dude, I went to a Trump rally and I had a very similar experience where I was there. This dude's 75 at the time. It was in Colorado Springs. Homie, 75. He's up there for 3 hours. So much energy. I left that place feeling so proud of my country, so hopeful. Everybody there was totally chill. All different races and sexes and ages, and everybody was just happy to be there.
Yeah.
And it was like America, it was just like, it just felt so good. And I was like, man, that was a very uniting thing. And it's so crazy how the media says the exact opposite. He's so divisive. It's like, if you watch him speak, you can get little sound clips and you can twist it to make him sound. You can make this podcast, I guarantee you, if you take some things out of context, will sound like the most bigoted podcast of all time. Just listen to the whole thing.
That's what's wrong with social media. They take things and use it to their agenda.
Right. So, yeah, man, I'm personally very hopeful of the future. I think it looks bright. All right, so just to wrap up the show, I think you started off with a great personal experience. Yeah. I think if everybody started to do, we could get this grand overall result. Yes. What you kind of said at the beginning of the show is when you stopped the lip service, when you stopped just asking people if they could pray for your strength, pray for you to resist certain things, and you decided, hey, I'm taking responsibility for my own actions. I'm going to do it, and everybody's going to see without me having to say that I'm going to do it or ask them to help me do it. And when you looked inward, that's when you were able to kind of open up your heart, allow God in.
Yes.
He animates you. The Holy Spirit
takes over. As soon as I was willing
over.
to obey.
Yes.
Obey. So that means submitting.
Obey to what you know is right.
Yes.
And it not only benefits you, benefits everybody around you. Dr. Andrea says it all the time. I think it's a Mother Teresa quote, that if everybody swept their own doorstep, the world would be clean.
Yes.
And so I think if everybody can take that personal responsibility for their own actions, desire a better outcome, not rely on their own strength, their own understanding, this feeling of hopelessness that I have to do it all myself, give it up to the Lord. He will bless you. And I think if enough people can do this, we can really have a hopeful future. I think this country's only 250 years in. There's a lot of people that feel like it's on the downfall. I feel the exact opposite. I think these are part of the growing pains. Yes. I think we're in an awkward teenager year right now. And next year, that facial hair is going to come in. And we're going to start to hit the gym a little bit. And we're going to be better than we've ever been. I believe this. Yeah. I think it's possible. We have an amazing foundational groundwork.
I think a revelation is coming. Not the book of Revelation, end times. I think that a revelation in this country is awakening in their 100%. Minds is coming.
100%. And I think that we shouldn't be the world police, but we have done a pretty decent job up until recently influencing the world to have freedom. And I think we're now influencing the world to have a little too much freedom in the wrong things, if you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
But I think we can be a good example once again. And I think that's taking responsibility as a nation for what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong. As you said, closing up the borders so that we can protect and take care of ourselves and not be sending all of our money to some other country.
Yeah.
I think that'd be nice.
Yeah.
And we can get back on track here and everybody can prosper. So I'm hopeful. Talked about discipline, talked about how that instills confidence.
Yes.
Talked about doing what you say that you're going to do and builds integrity. How all these things, we are personally both doing it with the family in mind. And we're going to build an empire. We're going to build a nation.
Yes.
And we're going to overcome.
For God.
For God, baby. That's what's up.
And the main point that I want everybody to take away is that none of this was possible for me without Yahweh, without Yeshua, without Jesus Christ. So I couldn't have done this on my own strength. But it is a decision that you have to make, and then God will come right behind you and support you. So
we talk about it just about in every podcast because I think it's the most important thing. 100%. I'm so blessed to have
I don't
men
want
like
to take
you.
any glory for myself.
Amen.
Because none of this is possible without him. 100%.
That's a great way to wrap up the episode. If you enjoyed it, if you learned something new, comment down below. What was your favorite part? Thank you so much for tuning in to the TLT Movement Podcast. If you liked what you heard, maybe it will bring somebody else in your life value too. So please share with a friend, subscribe to our YouTube, and comment and let us know what you think. Our podcast is available on Spotify and Apple, and we would very much appreciate a 5-star review. Visit our site, tltmovement.com.